Okay, and welcome to the first SaaStock Google Hangout. Super excited to be joined today. I think most of you can sort of recognise the face, but it's Des Traynor, Chief Strategy Officer, and one of the four co-founders of Intercom. Welcome, Des.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a real pleasure. Really good to speak to you. I think so. We're just saying that you've got to be in Dublin, right? Given the time of day.
That's right. Yeah, I'm over here. I guess I travel back and forth a lot, but right now I'm in Dublin. I leave for San Francisco tomorrow. You happen to catch me in the day when I was in the right time zone.
Okay, do you spend like 50% of your time in Dublin, or is it more in San Francisco these days?
Maybe more like 70-30 San Francisco, Dublin. But it alternates depending on where the focus is or what I'm working on.
Okay, cool. So, what I wanted to chat with you today about, obviously, we know that you're speaking at SaaStock on the 22nd of September in your hometown, Dublin. But just wanted to have a little chat to you today about sort of recent news. And, there was some big funding news from Intercom recently. A little bit about that, a little bit about the markets. A little bit about product. As I mentioned, I'm not a product guru, so I don't want to go too out of my depth on that. And get some of your thoughts around, the theme of SaaStock is about, how to build a category leading B2B SaaS business, right? So I want to get some of your thoughts around that. And then, towards the end, we'll have a couple of fluffy questions, if you'll allow that. Um, okay, so kind of going into, I guess, the recent news, right? So was it last week or the week before Intercom announced 50 million funding rounds?
I believe it was the week before.
The week before.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a pretty huge round, and great sort of press release. Owen's video, few
Yeah.
profanities there, always a bit profane, but it's that's cool. And this took your total funding to 116 million dollars in 4 years, right? And also, I think it was last week. Bill Gurley wrote this epic post, which I'm still reading. I'm still trying to get through it. But one of the things that sort of stuck out for me was that he said that the market favours growth over profits. Competition also has access to capital, so raise as much as you can, as fast as you can, be super ambitious, take as much market share as you can. So, is this true in relation to Intercom's recent raise?
Um, so, like you, I'm still trying to digest that piece.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll answer your question as it stands rather than giving you any extra context from the article that maybe you don't know. Um, I think, it's fair to say that profit has gotten more attractive with companies, but it has to be like meaningful profit, like not returning like a 1% margin on something like, but like a classic SaaS business will have a pretty high profit margin, 70, 80, 90%. They're all totally feasible. And if you can combine that with growth, I think you're in a really strong position. And I think the best way to get there of late that I've seen has been by not being a company that uses software to sell, but by being a company that sells software. And I often draw that difference for people because we have a tendency in the industry to chunk everything together into like a tech. And when you just say tech or startups, you combine like the on-demand services, which is like we'll do your laundry, we'll deliver you a pizza, or we'll do all those sort of things at the touch of a button, which is basically companies that use software to sell a service. You combine them with say a business like Atlassian or Slack or Stripe, which is a company that sells the privilege of using software it's built. And the very nature of selling software, which is an electronic good, means you have this wildly different profit margin. So if you can combine the profit margin that you get from selling something that's electronic in its nature, which tends to be very, very high markup, with something with a business and a growth mechanism or engine of growth that can consistently deliver double digit growth month over month, I think you're never going to struggle to raise money. Now, what is true is that maybe the people's perception of how wildly multi-hundred million, billion, trillion you might be will fluctuate depending on optimism in the market. But I've definitely noticed that companies are much quicker to tout their profitability to state how much runway they have these days than they were a couple of years ago. And I think a lot of that's down to people realizing that maybe funding environment isn't as optimistic as it once was. So a lot of it's got to do with communicating that their business is actually a lot more solid than it was. But in general, like I've never worked in consumer, which tends to be the area where you delay profit while growing a monopoly. I've worked only in areas where we've built software and we've charged people for the privilege of using it. And in that area, it's incredibly important that you early on realize that people who are buying your product are making a rational and considered purchase. And by rational and considered, I mean you can't be selling it for $1 because you're not really getting a real read on the market. And ideally you'll be going through some sort of consideration. You'll have a sense of why it is people aren't buying your product simply for the hell of it. They should be buying it to solve a problem. Once you know that you're solving a problem and people are willing to pay a reasonable amount of cash for it, I think you're going to be, and you have a way to get to these people. I do think like that you won't struggle to raise in any environment. The only thing that might happen is like the wild-eyed optimism that says might have said one day it'll be $100 billion or $1 trillion business might be a bit more modest and say maybe it'll be a $5 billion business. But that's kind of how I think about it. I don't really I know when times get hard, the market tends to look away from the speculatively wild big bets, which is kind of sad because often they're some of the most important things that happen. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it all.
Okay, and we won't, I think, delve too much into what you guys are going to do with the money, because I think that's well sort of publicised. I know you're creating loads of jobs in Dublin, and I think most of the funding, well, actually, is just going to go back into the product, right? You guys heavily invest in product first and foremost. So moving on into, I guess, the second quote that I'm going to sort of pull out in this is David Skock. I think that's how you pronounce his name. General partner of Matrix Partners, author of For Entrepreneurs blog. He famously, well, perhaps to SaaS nerds, said that the 3 keys to success in SaaS are acquiring customers, retaining customers, and monetizing customers. Is this a statement that you agree with? I mean, because there's no mention of product in there, but is David assuming that you've got that right?
I think it's implicit in the retaining customers. What he's coming at it from, David Scott's blog is wonderful if you're in SaaS, and he covers a lot of what he does is disambiguates metrics. So what he's giving you there is 3 SaaS metrics, if you like: acquisition, retention, and monetization. So you might have something like growth rate, and you might have something like churn rate, and you might have something like average revenue per user or average revenue per account. And for sure, you can get a reasonable read on a business, on the health of a mature business by looking at those 3 numbers, and it's still a lot more you'd want to see. So I wouldn't say it's that he's throwing product aside. It's just product is the unquantifiable thing. I can't give you a score for how good Intercom is, and as a result, people tend to try and find every other way to read it. The most common things that they look at will be saying things like customer satisfaction, retention. Obviously, the people buy it and stick around. So it's not I wouldn't say he's wrong per se. I just think it's a very scientific, cold, clinical look. It wouldn't tell you, for example, you could have a fantastic product that's just under monetized, as in you're just not charging enough money. Or you could have a fantastic product that you've just yet to take to market, so your user acquisition numbers won't be there. So I think it's a good thing for telling you about the real current state, but it doesn't tell you about the potential state of a business. Oftentimes when I look at early stage startups, what excites me most genuinely is seeing a great product. What excites me least is seeing a business that's mature in every way, but the product is kind of junky. I find it, I just know from so much experience, it's so rare a mediocre product ends up great, and it's so common that a great product eventually figures out how to charge money. So depending on if you're looking at current state versus potential, I think his metrics are okay for current state, but they're bad for assessing, say, what one might invest in, or what company you should work for, or what the future projection of a company or future trajectory would look like. That's kind of how I'd say that.
Okay, and talking of great products, Slack, it's kind of been the poster child of rocket ship growth over the last 2 years. What is it about product at Slack that you think they've executed so well that perhaps others can learn from?
I mean, I think the one thing that they've done is they tapped into an existing market and they basically did it better than every other incumbent. Like before Slack, there was HipChat. Before HipChat, there was Campfire. Before Campfire, there was IRC. So the idea of groups messaging together in chat rooms, if you like, isn't new. What is new is using software that works pretty well to do it. And I think the bits Slack got corrected, a lot of people got wrong, is it's a very well marketed product. It's a very engaging product from a design perspective. It does have some really interesting visual flourishes. I'm sure you're aware of the origin of that company was originally in games, so it's not 100% surprising that at times when you sign up and register and you're talking to Slackbot, it feels more like a sort of rich text-based role-playing game more than it does enterprise productivity collaboration software,
Yeah.
which obviously what they have the potential to charge for. But I think honestly it's down to it's a latent need. Anywhere there's teams of people, they want to talk to each other, and email isn't a perfect form for doing that. And Slack have basically created the world's best effort at simulating real chat, which is the thing that happens with the teams. So I think they've executed pretty well, but their growth, I think, it's not just down to the fact that the product's super hot. Like the marketing is really well done as well. So I wouldn't and they've certainly it's hard to look at a tech magazine these days and not see Stewart or at the very least a reference to Slack in it somewhere. So they're definitely getting the word out really, really well. The other piece I think is that's easy to overlook as well is that they've effectively come up with a form of monetizing email in a real way, not in a $5 a month way like Google Apps app or whatever, but they are charging they have a real perfect expansion. If me and you start a company and we hire 10 more people, we'll never talk about it, but our Slack bill will go from $14 to $70 or whatever straight away. So they expand really nicely. They do become the collaborative backbone of the company very quickly. So if you're not on Slack, you're effectively not the company. And all this kind of happens very, very quickly and naturally as a company adopts Slack. And I think in that regard, I don't think people don't give enough credit for how smooth their adoption process is around an org. And I think that's basically what contributes to their rocket ship growth, certainly in revenue, but it just in general is that the adoption of the product is very, very seamless. At times almost too seamless. It's you can almost blink and you'll miss it. Sort of, I guess we're using Slack for all these things now as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. I think to call it a well-designed, a better designed HipChat kind of misses the point. But at the same time, there was a big market sitting there for a very well-designed HipChat that worked. And that was if they didn't do anything else, that alone was going to be a success.
Yeah. Okay. Also, the theme of the conference of SaaStock, is that it's how to build a category leading SaaS business, right? Slack is a category leading SaaS business. I guess in both our opinions and many people's opinions. What do you think it takes? What are the key ingredients? To build a category leading B2B SaaS business. I'll be interesting to know that.
Yeah, I think it's very rare that incumbents get displaced in their own category. So what I mean by that is the next Salesforce isn't going to go toe to toe with Salesforce on a battleground that they designed and somehow win. It's very rare that happens. Specifically, what you're talking about here is really about brand preference versus brand relevance. And brand preference is when hey, me and you both sell time tracking software, but I want mine to be the best. So then we end up in a dogfight. Whereas really, when you look at what they said, a company like Slack has done, they've created a new category in a sense. They've told you that they have something that you don't currently have a solution to. And yeah, you might have a multi-way tiny incumbents like HipChat or whatever, but like most likely you didn't have a Slack and now you have a Slack, and it's not like let's go shopping. Which one will I buy? Will I buy the Slack or will I buy the? Oh no, there's nothing else on the shelf. I'll just buy the Slack. So like I think the trick to dominating a category is to create it, and I think that's certainly like when I look around at other companies on the market, whether it's like a Stripe or an Intercom or whatever, like that's like the end goal is like to create this sense of like, here is a thing you don't currently have and you need one because it does all this for you. Do you want one? And once you change the question to that, it no longer becomes about who's the best way to do blah. It's just like, oh, I need an Intercom, I need a Slack, I need a Stripe. That's kind of like where you need to get to. I think it's a real ropey area for startups to be in when they're like, we just want to be a little bit better than the current recruiting software, because not only do you have to like deliver on that, you also need to win this mind share battle, which is just going to be this whole other area. And specifically for startups, that's troublesome because most startups are started by people who create products, and most product people are marketing people, and mind share is a marketer's game. It's not a product game. So if you can't do something original to begin with, it's really hard to dominate. Now that has a whole ripple of other implications, because if you're basically doing something new for the first time, it means you're going to struggle to explain it to people. You're going to struggle to get funding for it, because like VCs, or at least the lazy VCs, will be like, what category are you in? Are you a help desk, or are you a chat app? I've already invested in WhatsApp. Or is this another chat thing? And because they're looking to pigeonhole you into these different sections. Whereas honestly, you need to hold firm and say, what we're doing is a genuinely new thing, and here's what it does. And yes, you will, if you succeed, you'll displace other things, but not because you're in their category, simply because you do that same job better than they do.
Okay, awesome. Now, I know we're running out of time a little bit here, so we're going to go through the next couple of questions, just a rapid fire, I guess, if that's cool. So, aside from Intercom, of course, who are the most exciting SaaS companies in Europe, in your opinion? You can add a why if you wish.
Yeah, the Europe is a tricky area, because I struggle to often think of companies geographically.
Yeah.
Like two companies, so like Workable are a really cool recruiting product.
Yeah.
That's based in London and in Greece, I believe. And let me think. Mention is a cool social media tracking company that's based in Paris and I think in the United States. Front is a pretty cool shared. It's basically a new take on team emails. And they're based, actually, no, they've moved entirely from Paris to San Francisco. But yeah, there's three.
Okay, cool. Which B2B SaaS founders do you admire the most, and why?
My heroes are everything you'd expect. So it could be like someone like, say, Aaron at Box, I think is phenomenally both accurate and intelligent with his tweets. Patrick and John Collison from Stripe, I think, are super smart and quite relatable in how to discuss their business. Stuart Clock, absolutely as well. I think he's, again, super smart. There's three.
Okay, cool. And final question. So you're opening the show at the inaugural SaaStock Conference on the 22nd of September in Dublin. So super excited about that. What can we expect from your talk at SaaStock? I mean, you talk at loads of conferences. I think what can we expect in September?
Yeah, so it's going to be a new talk, and my working title for it at the moment is Product First Companies. And it kind of touched. I mean, I hinted at a little bit of it here, but it's got to do with everything from like the differences between companies that sell software and use software. It's got to do with like how the company evolves. Was it, did you start with a product and then later on layer on marketing and then later on layer on sales? Or did you start with a sales engine and work backwards to work out what sort of product you need? It's got to do with like where you invest your time, where you invest your energy, and ultimately what differentiates you. And so the talk is really about like how I've seen the nature of product first companies, and actually a better word is really the prominence of kind of rise of late. So a classic example for me would be something like an Atlassian, which really just, I would say kept their head down, but I think that was the deliberate strategy. they went and built a $4 billion business simply by focusing 100% on product, minimally on marketing, and famously on zero sales and or zero active sales. They have a field deployed engineers who will effectively help people integrate and get set up, but it's not quite the same thing. And I think what we're going to see over time is in a sense technology coming back to the technologists. And the reason that will happen is because the product first companies are starting to win. When you look at the Slacks or the Stripes or the Intercoms, we're getting to a place where they're dominating categories because they have a thorough understanding of what job it is they do for people, and it's the product that's attracting people, not necessarily the advertising campaigns.
Awesome. Well, I'm very excited to hear that. That's kind of hot off the press there. No, that sounds awesome. So, Des, I think we've come to the end of the hangout. Fantastic to speak to you today. Lots of great nuggets of information here for those that are going to be watching this. I guess sort of on that note, you're speaking at loads of conferences this year, but we especially want people to come and see you at SaaStock 22nd of September in Dublin at the RDS, and looking forward to product first companies.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thanks, Des.